Okay, so here is Unit 7, H2 practice lesson. And this is the law of cosines. So remember, it's all about the pattern for the law of cosines. It's a combination of Pythagorean's theorem, some trigonometric identities, which we don't get to in this course, and a lot of algebra. But it looks something like this. So that's a line segment squared equals another line segment of the triangle squared plus the last line segment of the triangle squared minus 2 times these two line segments on the side of the equal sign multiplied together times 2, and then the cosine of the angle associated or across from this line segment. Okay, so like that. All right, so on the other side of the equal sign. All right, so let's work this one out. I drew these triangles. I encourage you guys to, because it makes it a little easier to follow these along. So we have triangle GHS. So here's G, here's H, and here's S. I labeled them that way because I wanted to. Okay, this means that this side is little g, also known as HS. This side is little s, and this side is little h. Okay, these are, only has, each one of these angles only has 2 lines coming out each vertex. So you can just say this is angle G, and it's 22 degrees. This is HG, right? So what line segment is this? This is S, right? So HG, right? HG is line segment S, and it's 27. We'll just keep that there. It's also 27. Okay, and SG, this is H, right? It's also known as H, and it equals 14.9. And it wants us to determine, this stuff. It wants us to know, it wants us to figure out H, it wants us to figure out S, and it wants us to figure out G, right? So you don't have to do these in order, right? I'm going to figure out G first because it's the thing that's the angles in this equation up here, right? You need to, in order to figure out these angles, you got to figure out the cosine of the angles, and then do the arc cosine to figure out the angles. But I'm going to do the easy ones first, which is the line segment. So I'm going to figure out this line segment length first, as long as we have everything that we need. So we'll figure it out by writing it down. G squared, we don't know G, as we're trying to figure out, equals, we'll say HS squared. Do I know S squared? Yep. What I know, can I find out S squared? Yeah, I know S. S plus H, the other one, I know H, so I can figure that H squared, minus 2 times S and H, already established that I know S and H, times the cosine of G. Do I know big G? Yeah, I know that. All right, so now I can plug and chug here. So I can do 27 squared. 27 squared is 729. 729 plus 14.9 squared. 14.9 squared is 22.01 equals 222.01 minus, all right, so this is a bunch of stuff, so I'm going to do it all at once. I'm going to start with cosine of G, right? So 22 cosine times 2 times 27, that was S, times H, 14.9. It's all at once. That is 746 minus 746.01. Right, all together, that's 729 plus 222.01 minus, so that equals, so G squared, so G will equal the square root of minus 746.01, 205, which is going to equal 14.32. 14.32. So G equals 14.32. That's going to make the rest of this stuff probably a little easier. We'll see. So let's, so this is 14.32. All right. So now let's figure out how to solve for, say, the cosine of S here. All right, that's what we got to figure out next. So we would be, let's box this off. So if we're going to go S squared is going to be equal to, it's going to be the other two line segments, G squared plus H squared minus 2GH times the cosine of S. Now I got to rearrange this equation for the cosine and isolate the cosine of S here. Okay, so we're gonna go S squared minus G squared minus H squared and we're gonna divide it by just a second. Let's plug in the numbers, I guess, first. All right, so S squared is going to be 27 squared equals 14 is G. It equals 14.3 squared. We're just going to do 14.3 squared plus 14.9 squared minus 2 times 14.9 times 14.3 times the cosine of S. Cosine of big S. Big S. All right. All right, so now we'll, so 27 squared equals 729, and then, so 14.3 squared equals 204.5. And then we got 14.9 squared equals 200 plus 222 minus, and then we're gonna do everything except that. Okay, except for cosine. Minus, this is gonna, we're gonna have to dividing all this by that if we move it over there. We're gonna end up with a negative number. but it's okay. You can still have cosines of negative numbers. Okay, so 2 times 14.9 times 14.3 equals 426.1 times the cosine of s. Okay, so now we're going to move it to over here. And then if so, we'll go 729 minus 204.5 minus 222 equals, and then we're going to divide that by negative 426.1. That gives us negative, let me try that again, 729 minus 204.5 minus 222 equals divided by 426.1. All right, that seems better. Okay, so that's going to give us negative, that's negative, of course. I'm just going to give a negative 7.09. We're going to do the arc cosine of that, and that's going to give us 135 degrees. So the cosine, so S equals 135 degrees. 0.2 degrees, but that's fine. All right, that was a lot. Wish they gave me more space to show more stuff, but that's okay. So and then you're gonna do the same thing with h. All right, you're gonna go h squared equals s squared plus g squared minus 2sg sg times the cosine of h. Right, so then we can just we'll just do a little algebraically arrange this time. H squared minus s squared minus g squared divided by negative 2sg equals the cosine of h. Okay, so if we wanted to be a little bit more, we can do the arc cosine of all this equals h. There we go. Now we can just plug and chug everything. And if we plugged everything in and did all the information, you get that that h, or that s equals h. What are we solving? Yeah, that h equals 22.9. Don't want to waste a bunch of time. We're just plugging and chugging numbers. But that's how you rearrange this equation to make it equal, to figure out what the cosine is. You don't have to memorize this stuff. As long as you know how to do algebra, you just have to memorize something like that. Okay. All right, same thing, same process here. Okay. All right, so we have triangle PXN, PXNN, right? So PX, that means it's opposite of N. It's this one is 17. We got PN, that means it's X, and it's 28. And XN, that means it's P is 30. They don't give us any of the angles. That's okay. We can just solve for the cosines and stuff. We can copy this one pretty much if we want to, right? We just have to substitute some of the stuff that we the variables that we want. Okay, so let's do that. We're trying to figure out x. Okay, so the cosine, the arc cosine. Sauce. I can't even. All right, so the arc cosine of whatever I'm about to write in there is going to equal x. Okay, so we're going to use all the variables except x, right? So the first variable that we started with is h, and we have to use little x for that. Okay, that's what we were solving for up here to figure out what big H was. All right, so that's what we're starting with here, and it was squared. Then that's the only, everything else is the other two. So it's minus, it's going to be minus n, or yeah, minus n. This is just another alternate form of this, which is with different variables. Minus n minus g n squared and minus p squared divided by 2np equals x, and then we'll just plug and chug here. Okay, so we have x is 28 squared minus 17 squared minus 30 squared divided by 2 times 17 times 30. Okay. And after we plug all that in, we'll get x. All right, so 28 squared minus 17 squared minus 30 squared equals negative 405. Negative 405. So then we have 2 times 17 times 30 equals 1,000. This should be negative 2. 1,020. Okay, so 405 negative divided by 1020 negative equals that, and we're going to do the cosine, the arc cosine of that. That equals 66 degrees. So x equals 66.6 degrees. 66.6 degrees. All right. So you guys know I'm checking this as I go along in the key, but I'm not looking at it. I'm not checking it until after I'm done. So I'm not really cheating. All right. So next I'm gonna do n. Okay, so I'm going to do the cosine, the arc cosine, whatever I'm about to figure out in that, equals n. All right, so n is going to be my first one, and I'm going to be minus x squared minus p squared divided by 2xp. All right, plug and chug here. N is 17 squared minus 30 squared minus 28 squared divided by 2 30s, or 2 times 30 times 28 equals, all right, 17 squared minus 30 squared minus 28 squared equals negative 1395 divided by 2 times 30 times 28 equals by 1680. All right, so 1395 negative divided by 1680 equals, I'm going to take the cosine of that, it'll be 146. That's not what the key says. So let me see what I messed up. Let me check that again. All right, so let's see. Let me type the numbers in again. All right, so did I copy all the numbers down right? This is P. Okay. x and p's, right? 30 and 20. I got 2. N is the first one. That's N. 30. Let me type the numbers in again. Maybe I typed it too fast. Okay. All right, so 17 squared minus 30 squared equals minus 28 squared equals 1395. Okay. 2 times 30 times 28 squared equals, whoa, that's not right. 2 times 30 times 28 equals 1680. All right. So 1395 negative divided by 1680 equals, take the cosine of that, 146. I'm going to pause this and see where I made a mistake so I'm not wasting your. Okay, I figured out my mistake. I forgot to put the negative sign in front of here because we are dividing by -2. So the negative sign definitely matters. All right, so it's negative, so it's 1395 negative divided by 1680 negative equals that. So the inverse cosine of that is 33.886, 33.9, 33.9. So negative divided by negative is positive, which is way different than if I did 1395 negative divided by 1680, right? Same absolute value, but it's a negative sign. If I do the inverse cosine of that, it's not the same value. So interesting point there. Okay. All right. So now we have x angle P. We got to figure out angle P here. So the cosine of angle P, the arc cosine of P is going to be, we're going to start with P squared, and it's going to be minus x squared and n squared and 2 np. Don't forget those negative signs. Okay, we found that out last time. No, n, it should be np. Okay, so we'll do that again. P is 30 squared minus 28 squared minus 17 squared divided by -2. 17, 2 times 17 times P is 30. Okay, so here we go. 30 squared minus 28 squared minus 17 squared equals, divided by -2 divided by 17 divided by 30 equals, then take the arc cosine of that, and that says that's not right. I punched something wrong. Okay, we'll just do the top and the bottom. 30 squared minus 28 squared minus 17 squared equals -173, and then -2 times 17 times 30 equals -1020. Okay, so it's 173 divided by 1020, and then inverse sign of that is, pausing it again and see where I messed up. I used 30 instead of 28. That's where I messed up. Okay. All right, so -2 times 17 times 28 is -952. Okay, so 173 minus 952. I used both positives, so I know the negatives would cancel out. Is 173 divided by 952 equals that. Inverse cosine of that is 79.5. 79.5. Okay, so if I add them all up, 66.6 plus 33.9 plus 79.5, they all equal 180, so I know that they're all correct there. All right, moving on to the last couple of these here. All right, so walking distance to a barn. Okay, we have G, W, and N. G, W, and N. Means we got little g, little w, and little n. All right. The distance between the gate and the point. The distance between the gate, point G, okay, and the water, point W, okay, is 52 yards. This is 52. Okay, the distance between the gate and the barn, point N, is 37.5 yards. 37.5 yards. The distance between the watering hole and the distance from the water throw to the barn. Okay, which one was the barn again? N. Well, yeah, it's got to be because that's the gate. All right, so that from here to here is 31 yards. We again got to find all of the angles again. So we're going to be using those cosines. I'm going to do it down here. So the arc cosine of G equals, it's going to be G squared minus N squared minus W squared divided by 2NW times the times NW. This is negative. And this should be the arc cosine. The arc cosine of all that equals G. And then it's going to be the arc cosine of N squared minus G squared minus W squared divided by negative 2GW equals N. And then what's left? Arc cosine of, we haven't done W yet. W squared minus G squared minus N squared divided by negative 2GN equals W. Right, so if you did all that math, you plugged in all those numbers, you would get that angle G is 36 degrees. Angle W is 46 degrees. And angle N is 98 degrees. Okay, so that's how you rearrange those equations. You plug and chug those numbers, right? Different ways to show those equations, right? It all derives from something like G squared equals N squared plus W squared minus 2NW times the cosine of G, right? It's all that pattern. Okay, just do that a couple times and you'll understand all the stuff. All right. And then in triangle DTF, All right, so let's draw a triangle. I guess we gotta actually put some thought to this. Okay, so we have a DTF. We have DF. DF is like a 10 degree, is like a 10, like that long. And then we have this is D, this is F, and then we have TD. So T is like our other vertice over here, and TF is a little longer, so it's got to be like here-ish. Is a little longer than TD. Yeah, it should be backwards. Okay. All right, so you can say that not sure I agree with this question. Maybe we have to do some math here. Hold on. Oh yeah, we can do loss of cosine here. All right, so we'll do TD. Let's just do some math here. Okay. We have DF, which is 10. We have TD, which is 42. And we have TF, which is 46. Now we're just going to figure out all the different angles here. Let's look at figuring out like D here, I guess, since the opposite of D is the largest angle, right? This would be the largest angle because it has the associated longest leg. All right, so let's figure out what the biggest angle would be. Okay, so D squared, well, the cosine of D, the arc cosine of, why did I just write? I'm getting burnt out, sorry. Arc cosine of, it would be D squared minus, this is T, this is F, right? The arc cosine of minus F squared minus T squared divided by negative 2ft equals D. All right, so let's do some plugging and chugging. All right, so 42 squared minus 10 squared minus 40. Oh, sorry, this would be 46 squared. 46 squared minus 42 squared. Minus 42 squared, all divided by 2 times 10 times negative 2 times 10 times 42. Now what does that equal? Okay, let's see. That's going to be equal to 46 squared minus 10 squared minus 42 squared equals 252 divided by 2 times 10 times 42 is negative 840. And that's going to be equal to divided by 252. Invert that is negative 0.03. Let's take the inverse cosine of that as 107. 107.4 degrees. So that's an obtuse angle. So that's got to be an obtuse because one of the angles is greater than 90 degrees. Right? So you can look at the largest of the lengths when you're figuring this one out, and see what the associated angle is, and then you can see if it's if it's greater than 90 or equal to 90, it's an obtuse angle. Otherwise, it's an acute angle. So there you go. Boy, that was a marathon there. All right, we got one more after this, and then we are done with the law of, or chapter 7, and the next one's super easy. It's just multiplying stuff together and then dividing by 2, and then we're done. Hope you guys have a great day.